Today, we're unpacking something really significant, something that's set to reshape how every business, big or small, operates digitally here in Malaysia.
That's right.
We're talking about our very own Cybersecurity Act 2024. And look, this isn't just another piece of paper, another law. It really feels like a blueprint for our digital future, doesn't it?
It really does. It's a foundational shift. This act got royal assent on June 18th, published in the Gazette, June 26th, so it's official. And it's a huge leap for us.
Huge how?
Well, it's about moving beyond just reacting. It's about proactively boosting our national cybersecurity, managing these ever-evolving threats, and basically ensuring the stuff that keeps our country running stays running. Think essential services.
Okay, so our mission today, then, is to sort of pull back the curtain on this act. We want to dive into what it actually means, who it affects, and critically, what it means for us, especially our SMEs, the small and medium businesses.
Yeah, because readiness isn't just a nice to have anymore.
Exactly. It's crucial. And we'll also touch on how we at Procto, fit into this picture, how we can be a partner in navigating these, new waters. So let's start right at the beginning. To really get this, what is the Cybersecurity Act 2024, at its core?
Okay, so at its essence, the Act is setting up a really solid legal framework for national cybersecurity. And its reach is broad. It binds both federal and state governments, consistent across the board.
Okay.
But here's a key thing for businesses, too. It has extraterritorial application. Meaning if a cyber attack happens outside Malaysia, but it hits our critical infrastructure here, this Act can still deal with it. It's designed to be properly comprehensive, protecting our space no matter where the threat comes from.
Wow. Okay. That's a strong message. It shows we're serious. And the Act brings in some key players, too, right? Like the National Cybersecurity Committee.
Absolutely. Chaired by the Prime Minister, no less. They're setting the strategy, the policies, overseeing implementation. It's top-level stuff.
And then there's the Chief Executive of NACSA, the National Cybersecurity Agency.
Exactly. That role is crucial. Advising the committee, actually implementing the policies, coordinating everything nationally. And they have teeth that can issue directives.
Directives, okay.
Yeah, to ensure compliance. And think about the bigger picture. This whole setup means a centralized, serious approach to cyber defense. Clear chain of command.
Makes sense.
The chief executive also runs the National Cyber Coordination and Command Center system. That's like the nerve center, for tracking threats, managing incidents.
The central hub.
Precisely. Which brings us to a really important point. What exactly are these national critical information infrastructures, NCIIs, that are so central here? What falls under that?
Yes, the NCIIs. This is where it gets really interesting, I think. The Act defines NCII as basically a computer or a system where if it gets disrupted or destroyed, it would seriously harm essential services.
Essential services
like anything vital for our security, defense, economy, public health, safety, even just the government being able to function properly. Basically, if it going down causes a major problem for the country, it's likely critical.
Okay, so it's the big stuff. And the Act names specific sectors too, doesn't it?
It does, very specific. We're talking government, banking and finance, transportation, defense and national security, infocomms and digital, healthcare, water and waste management, energy, agriculture, trade and industry, science and tech.
Wow, that covers a lot, pretty much the backbone of our society and economy.
Totally. So within those sectors, certain organizations or NCII entities get designated. These are the ones owning or running these critical systems.
Yeah.
Now, while the Act directly targets these big players...
The principles apply more broadly.
Exactly. The principles are gold for any business, especially SMEs wanting to up their cyber game. It's like a best practice framework laid out for everyone. A roadmap, really. Okay, let's dig into that a bit. What are some of the core duties for these NCII entities? Because like you said, even if they don't apply directly to every SME, the ideas behind them are super important for our whole digital journey here.
Definitely. One of the big ones is Section 21, the duty to implement code of practice. This basically says NCII entities must put in place specific measures, standards, processes for their cybersecurity.
So like rules they have to follow.
Yeah. Think documented policies, maybe using international standards like ISO 27301 if they're robust enough. It's not just about having antivirus, it's about having a structured approach. Access control, training, incident response plans. the whole package.
Right, and that's a huge lesson for SMEs, isn't it? Even if you're not an NCII, having clear, written-down cyber policies isn't just nice, it's essential now for resilience, for reputation.
Absolutely, it's foundational.
And this is exactly where, we at Procto try to help SMEs. Developing and implementing those policies, those frameworks, controls that align with what NCSA expects, but tailored for an SME context.
That kind of support is crucial. Okay, another key duty. Duty to conduct cybersecurity risk assessment and audit. That's Section 22. They need to regularly check for risks and get audited by approved auditors.
Audited? Sounds expensive.
It can be, but the idea is proactive defense.
Cool.
Find your weaknesses before the bad guys do. It's not just a one-off tick box thing either.
Oh.
The chief executive can actually order extra assessments, especially if there are major changes to their systems.
So it's ongoing. Again, for SMEs, may be daunting. How do you start without a huge IT team?
It is a challenge. Understanding your vulnerabilities is step one, though, and this is another area where external help is vital for smaller players.
Which is why at Procto we focus on simplifying that. We conduct and document those risk assessments, security audits, compliance reviews, giving SMEs that peace of mind, making sure they meet these critical needs without the huge overhead.
Yeah, makes sense. Then there's Section 23, duty to give notification on cybersecurity incident. This is a big one. If an NCII entity knows, or even just suspects, a cyber incident happened.
Suspects, even if they're not sure.
Yes. They have to notify the chief executive and their sector lead fast, within a set time. It's about rapid response, not just for them, but for the national picture.
And the consequences for not reporting.
They're serious. Fines up to RM 500,000 or prison up to 10 years. Or both.
Wow. Okay. So imagine you're, say, a logistics SME, maybe not an NCII, but you have a data breach, customer records exposed. What then?
Well, even if not legally mandated under the specific NCII duty, the principle of quick action and potentially reporting is best practice and might be required under other regulations like PDPA. Knowing what to do is key.
And that's where having a plan comes in. At Procto, we help set up those incident response plans, those protocols for reporting if needed, bridging that gap, especially for SMEs, without that in-house expertise, making sure you know the steps when it matters most.
Exactly. There's also the duty to provide information relating to NCII under Section 20. Entities have to give info about their critical systems.
What kind of info?
Details about the systems, and crucially, they must notify their sector lead within 30 days if there's any material change.
Material change. Meaning?
Anything significant affecting the system's design, configuration, security, or operation, like switching a major vendor, a big network redesign, moving key stuff to a new cloud provider, anything that could impact its cybersecurity posture.
Right. It's about keeping that national picture updated, knowing what assets are where and how they're protected, or potentially vulnerable.
Precisely. It's about dynamic awareness.
Okay, this is all really shaping up to be quite comprehensive. Now, you mentioned something earlier. What about the companies providing cybersecurity services? Does the Act touch on them?
Yes. Very important point. Section 27 introduces licensing for cybersecurity service providers, or CSPs.
Licensing. So, you need a permit to offer cybersecurity services now?
Essentially, yes. If you provide certain prescribed cybersecurity services, or even just advertise yourself as doing so, you'll need a license to operate legally in Malaysia.
Which services specifically?
The minister will define the exact list, but we expect it to cover things like pen testing, incident response, security audits, probably managed security services, the critical stuff.
Why the licensing, though?
It's really about quality control and accountability in the industry itself, setting a baseline. So when a business hires a CSP, they have more confidence in their competence, their professionalism. It builds trust.
Okay, that makes sense for the users of the services. What about the SMEs who are the CSPs, the ones providing these services?
For them, it's obviously a big deal. They'll need to understand the requirements, go through the application process.
Which can be complex, I imagine.
It can. And again, this is something we're geared up to help with at Procto, supporting those SME CSPs in navigating the licensing requirements, helping them get licensed efficiently. It's about ensuring competence across the board, right, for everyone involved.
So this Act, while it has this clear focus on the NCIIs, the big critical infrastructure, it really does raise the bar for everyone, doesn't it? It sets a new standard across the whole economy.
Absolutely. It sends a clear signal. Cybersecurity isn't optional anymore. It's fundamental. But, for many SMEs, hiring a full-time expert to figure all this out, the legal side, the technical side, it's just not realistic. Cost prohibitive.
Which leads to the big question. How do SMEs bridge that gap? How do they meet these expectations without breaking the bank or getting totally overwhelmed?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
And this is exactly where we position Procto. We aim to be that strategic partner. Specifically for Malaysian SMEs, think of us as your, well, secure CTO-as-a-Service, or maybe CTO plus compliance partner.
Okay, unpack that a bit.
We provide that high-level strategic oversight, the expert guidance, the practical support, but at a fraction of the cost of a full-time C-level exec. Our whole mission is helping SMEs navigate this act, enabling their digital transformation, yes, but doing it securely, meeting compliance, managing risk.
So making it manageable for them.
Exactly. We help interpret the act for their specific situation. We help develop and implement the right policies, the frameworks, the controls, making sure they align with NCSA guidelines but fit the SME reality.
And the practical stuff, risk assessments, audits.
Yep, we handle conducting and documenting those. We help set up incident response plans, reporting protocols, guide them on choosing secure cloud tools right from the start, security by design.
What about training? That's often overlooked.
Crucial. We provide training for staff, for management, building that security culture from the ground up, and like we mentioned, even helping other SMEs get their CSP license if they need it.
So it's quite end-to-end support then.
That's the goal. Look, you don't necessarily need a massive internal team. You need the right strategy, the right partner. Yes, non-compliance has penalties, but it is manageable with the right approach. We help build that strong, act-aligned foundation, making cybersecurity feel, achievable, not scary, so they can focus on growing their business. Phew. Okay, that was quite the deep dive into the Cybersecurity Act 2024. We've seen how it targets critical infrastructure, definitely, but also how its principles really set a new baseline for all of us here in Malaysia.
Absolutely. Cybersecurity readiness isn't just a good idea anymore. It's foundational. It's table stakes for operating digitally.
And the Act really hammers home the proactive stuff, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Risk assessments, incident reporting, having those codes of practice.
Exactly. These aren't just legal hoops to jump through. They're smart business practices. Protecting your data, your customers, your reputation, the benefits go way beyond just ticking a compliance box. Any smart business, regardless of size, should be doing this stuff.
So as a clear action for everyone listening today, what's one thing they could do?
Okay. A simple but important one. Go look at your contracts with your key vendors, especially anyone handling your data or running important systems for you.
Check the security clauses.
Exactly. What are their responsibilities? What happens if they have a breach that affects you? It's a basic step, but it can prevent a lot of headaches. Make sure your supply chain is secure, too. You're only as strong as your weakest link, right?
Good one. Very practical.
And remember, this act, like technology itself, isn't static. It's a living thing. Laws will evolve. The digital landscape keeps changing. So stay informed. Keep learning.
Yeah, and maybe think about what else in our daily lives might become critical down the line. What other digital services might need this level of protection in the future? Food for thought.
Definitely. The definition of critical can change faster than we think.
Well, a huge thank you for joining us on this essential deep dive. We really hope you, our listeners, feel more informed, maybe a bit more prepared, and empowered to tackle this world of cybersecurity. It's challenging, sure, but also exciting.
Indeed. Stay safe out there.
We'll catch you on the next one.